What's up, everybody? Welcome in on this Sunday night for you Ole Miss fans. It's officially Gator Bowl week, so I'm sure you're fired up for this one. Although I have enjoyed the heck out of bowl season. I don't know about you guys. We have had, by and large, a slate of bowl games that have been incredibly entertaining. The bowl games have been far more interesting and fun than the playoff games so far. So, hey, maybe buy in and feel the excitement of the Gator Bowl. But tonight, that's what we are talking about. I have workshopped this take. I actually did it on the radio show as well. And the audience appeared to have agreed with me. So I'm going to bring it to you guys here on the podcast. Is the Gator Bowl? That's the question. I know it sounds kind of goofy, but we'll talk through it. Is the Gator Bowl a must-win for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss? Is the Gator Bowl a must-win? That's the main topic tonight. Of course, we got basketball to discuss as well. Disappointed did the basketball team, especially when that was what it felt like the first time a lot of fans were actually watching that team. We'll get into that later as well. But I want to again welcome you into this edition of the Rebel Report. My name is Michael Borky. Don't forget to subscribe if you have not already. Wherever you get your podcast, just search Rebel Report, subscribe, and leave a rating and a review. Don't forget also to like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're watching or listening over on Super Talks YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe there as well. And this edition and every edition of the podcast is presented by the Gregory Law Firm. DJ Gregory of the Gregory Law Firm. He's in Fulton, but he can service you anywhere in the state of Mississippi for all of your personal injury, small business issues, or contract disputes. So if you've been personally injured, wake up in the morning and call DJ Gregory, 662-397-9799, 662-397-9799. Also, small business, if you're a small business owner and you need legal advice or you want to start a small business, or if you don't need it today, but you are a small business owner, that day may come and you don't want to be lost and not knowing where to go. DJ Gregory, the Gregory Law Firm, 662-397-9799. So I was thinking about this a lot after Oklahoma's loss to Navy. And trust me, I know that the Oklahoma program is in a very different situation than that of the Ole Miss program, regardless of what happened with Ole Miss and roster and expectations and all that. But you have this idea, and it's largely accurate, that the bowl games, quote unquote, don't matter, right? If you're not in the playoff, the result of the bowl game really doesn't matter. And that's easy to say for, your common fan until their team lines up and plays a game and then loses or wins that game. Oklahoma fans knew this was already kind of a lost season. They had, 25 opt-outs or something like that without their quarterback. They're searching for a new offensive coordinator, or they completed the search, but it was a lost season. And so the results of their bowl game against Navy didn't really matter, right? But then the team lined up and they played and the bowl game happened and then they lost and then there was a meltdown. It's easy it's easy in April for an NFL fan to talk about tanking because you're not watching the team lose every single week. Ask a Saints fan what this season was like. Is it a net positive that they keep losing games? Probably so, but it sucks. It really sucks to sit back and watch a team tank. The Pelicans are 5-27, I think. They need to keep losing basketball games. It sucks watching them. As a fan, it's terrible. I'm miserable. It's not even January yet, and they're that bad. It's a similar phenomenon with bowl games. Just tank. Tank for the number one pick. That's easy, and then the games happen. And then you realize how miserable you are while your team's tanking. Bowl games don't matter. Whatever. This season's lost anyway. Venables needs to get his coordinator hires right, and then they play Navy and they lose. And suddenly that bowl game becomes extremely important, right? And so watching the reaction that Oklahoma people had to that loss kind of inspired this question of whether or not it's a must-win for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss against Duke in the Gator Bowl. Is it a must-win? And I know that's kind of a goofy proposition, right? Because a must-win implies that there is a consequence for the loss, like a tangible consequence. like a must-win game for a coach on the hot seat. If they don't win the game, the coach loses his job. Like that's a tangible result. It's a must-win, or else you lose your job. Or the the Florida game, I know there's an outside chance, but the Florida game was a must-win because if they don't, they're going to miss the playoff. And sure enough, they did. There's no real consequence for Lane Kiffin or Ole Miss if they lose the Gator Bowl. They did not make the playoff. Lane Kiffin is not losing his job. So calling it a must win may be a bit of a stretch. I'm kind of clickbaiting it a little bit, but I do think it's a need to win. Maybe it's not a must win because there's no consequence for the loss, but it's a need to win. And because it's all about the spin, right? It's all about the spin because they've already signed the recruiting class. They're already active in the portal. They're going to get some more portal guys. The result of the Gator Bowl is not really going to impact whether or not they can get one of the 5 to 10, I would guess closer to 10 than 5 players they're going to continue to add via transfer portal. So the hay's a bit in the barn anyway from that perspective. But a win in the Gator Bowl gives positive spin to the program, gives you something that you can sell, that you can touch, that you can spin into good. Yes, the season was a disappointment. Yes, they came up short. Yes, the roster was good enough to make the playoff, and frankly, they should have made the playoff, and we've rehashed all of those things 100 times. 1 second half touchdown in their 3 losses. The offense needs something, some kind of pun completely unintended, some kind of juice into it, some adjustments. There are things that need to be changed, of course, because this roster should have made the playoff. But if you win the Gator Bowl, you end with your third 10-win season in 4 years. What is that? 33% of the program's double-digit win seasons all time in the last 4 years, if I remember the stat correctly. So your third double-digit win in 4 years, 39 wins in 4 years, which is truly, I mean, that's outstanding. That's really good. And it's not like 38 is any much worse, but still 39 wins in 4 years, another 10-win season. Yes, you came up short, but you just barely came up short in a couple of tweaks, and you should be right there in that conversation again next year. You've got this young, exciting quarterback that's super talented, and the team has already bought in him apparently already, and he's young, but he's mature and he's smart, and you can really just kind of buy into the Austin Simmons era. And then you look at the high school class, and it was a top 15 class, and that's great. And then you've got the portal class that's number 3 right now, and they're going to add a couple more guys here over the next week or two that could vault that class even higher. And suddenly it's like, you know what? Season was disappointing, but it ended well. They beat State. They won the bowl game. They have that Georgia win, which was exciting, and they tore down the goalposts. And now there's a lot still to like about the direction of the program, even though they came up short of expectations in 2024. You can spin that and you can sell that. And frankly, if they win on Thursday night when we go live together, we're going to talk about that. Just, hey, look, the season was lost because they didn't make the playoff, but it wasn't a catastrophe. Like it was okay, as opposed to a true failure, right? You can spin that. A loss, however, and everything that I just said, even though it kind of remains true, becomes spun the other way. You have this roster that should have made the playoff, and you lose 4 games with it. Hold on. You lose 4 games with it, and you lost to Duke without their quarterback and their running back, and the ACC's 1-9 in bowl games, and you gave them their second win after you gave Kentucky their only win. And again, you only scored 1 second half touchdown in your 3 losses, and you had to just go 1-2 against Kentucky and Florida and LSU, and you couldn't manage to do that. Not only did you miss the playoff, but you ended the season on a pathetic note. You didn't even play that well in the Egg Bowl, and now, I mean, all of your good players are gone. Everybody's gone. They're all off to the NFL. And now, I mean, you signed a high school class, but how many of them are actually going to play for you? And I mean, the portal class is good, but you're still missing in a lot of spots in the offensive line, and that's not going to get any better. And who knows what you're doing at running back? And I mean, you're really expecting a quarterback that's played one meaningful series in his career to save the program? It's a disaster. It's a catastrophe. You see how quickly that can spin negative? The same program, how quickly that can be spun into such a negative way. You can maintain fan base program optimism to a degree with a win this week. And you can really lose people. You can really lose people with the loss this week. And some people don't believe that. Some people think that I'm crazy. And I know Oklahoma's different, but I watched it with Oklahoma. Go gauge the reaction of that fan base after a bowl loss in which a quarter of their roster plus opted out of the game. Look at what happened there. Look at the reaction to that. Bowl games are meaningless until they're actually played and your team wins or loses. And it might sound crazy, but you will really create a toxicity in mood among the fans with a loss to Duke. Now, I don't think they're going to, but that's certainly something that would happen. And all of those things that I just said in the inflection that they will be said with, there will be a meltdown if they lose this game to Duke. And frankly, I think it's almost justified. I think it is justified if they do. So is it a must win? I guess not. Is it a need to win? I think it is. You can maintain positive momentum. And if you don't win that game, the energy, the momentum, everything you've got, it'll be lost. I think it will. Some people would think that's crazy, but watch them lose the game this week and tell me what the fan base's feeling is going into the offseason and going into next season. It won't be pretty. It really won't. The podcast is brought to you in part by Advantage Business Systems. Check them out online, absms.com. Advantage Business Systems has you covered for all of your office technology needs. Tell them I sent you. Get a complimentary office technology assessment. So you just tell them what you need and what your budget is, and they will find a solution for you on me. It's Advantage Business Systems. absms.com is the website for all of your Mississippi office technology needs. The podcast is also brought to you in part by Priority One Bank. They make you their priority every single day with their online banking platform. It's a one-stop shop. All you need is an internet connection, and you can do whatever it is that you need to do with your money because Priority One Bank makes you their priority. Basketball left a lot to be desired Saturday. Yes, they did. They played poorly. Memphis, look, it's basketball. And I thought the classic two things can be true at the same time. The things that should concern you about this team really manifested in this game against Memphis. Memphis had size. Ole Miss doesn't have size. And then when you get the ejection, you really lack in the ability to match up physically with a team that's got size like Memphis. And that's a game like that's going to happen in conference play more than once for sure. Ole Miss lacks size, and that's going to get exploited at times. And that is a concern. And that is something that they're going to deal with all season long. I know he's 2 games coming back from an injury that sidelined him for a while, but they don't need Matt Morrell to give you 25 points per game, but he needs to be a more impactful player than he has been. He cannot disappear, and he disappeared. Padula, I thought was bad for him, kind of shell shocked a little bit, and I don't think that's going to happen to him very much. But anyway, I thought that it's a flawed basketball team is Ole Miss. And it's really difficult, though, to go win on the road, especially against a good team like Memphis. I think a lot of the reaction was kind of unfair, in part because people are still locked into a football mentality where they think that if you lose one game, like in football, it's a disaster. They're only winning 3 conference games. This team sucks. Bring back Kermit. Divest in the program when you lose a road game to a team. Look at the wins Memphis has. You lose to them on the road, it's not the end of the world. So you got to kind of get out of that football mentality. But I do think that was a lot of people's first watch of this team this year, and that was not the best audition to kind of capture the spirits of the casuals. But they are better than that. They can certainly score better than that. They turn the ball over like their season average in the first half, basically. They were careless with the basketball. Padula was off. They really didn't make open shots. And you lose basketball games on the road sometimes. Um, I still think that it's a team that can get to the magic number. I still think that magic number is 8 conference wins. If they just go 8-10 in the SEC, they're making the tournament. I think that's pretty cut and dry. Their net is still in the 30s. They may or may not be ranked. It doesn't matter. That poll doesn't matter. But their net is fine. 11-2 in the non-conference, and their 2 losses are at Memphis and a neutral site loss to Purdue. They're fine there. The schedule was a little weak. They don't have that many like great wins either, but they do have BYU on a neutral floor. They have Louisville on the road. They can play better than they did. They are better than the way they looked yesterday, but they are also a flawed basketball team. But there's a lot of flawed basketball teams, even in the SEC, which is great. Just get to 8. If you get to 8, you're getting in, and that would be a good step forward in year 2 for Chris Beard. I have a hard time seeing them getting to 8 without a win on Saturday against Georgia. This is a Georgia team that was down 17. They won the game, but down 17 at one point to South Carolina State, by the way. So if that was your first introduction to them, they have looked and played much better against good competition this season. You're just going to, sometimes you play poorly. They're going to be heavily dependent on their guards for offensive production. And when they're turning it over and not shooting well, it looks like crap. It does, but they're better than they looked on Saturday. They just have to go out and prove that. But you lose to good teams on the road sometimes. It does happen in basketball. It most certainly will happen again. Probably off topic, but is Major Burns out of eligibility? You watched him graduate the other week, and it felt like the end of an era. I have no idea if he's out of eligibility or not. A must win, probably not, but should dominate Duke, so a loss would not be a good look at all. Must win. I love the lead you have there. It makes a good question being real here. A loss would be rather embarrassing for a multitude of reasons. The ACC is 1-9 in bowl games, or in bowl season, 1-4 against the group of 5, and Duke is missing a number of impact players. The season failed in its goal, but can we not consider 10 wins in a season to be deemed some sort of success? The fact that you underachieved and still went 10-3 shows you weren't too far off. It does, and it also shows that you have elevated the floor of your program. That's what that would be. It would be Lane Kiffin's been doing a lot of spinning this since the Egg Bowl, really. And frankly, I think he's been doing a lot of deflecting. All of his tweeting about the playoff committee and stuff, I think, is not only trying to get his team in, even though, of course, it would never work, but I think he's also motivated by deflection. I could be dead wrong, but it seems pretty transparent that it's, hey, no, look over there. Look at the committee. Don't look at me. Don't look at my offense and coming up short and not performing in important games. And again, I've said it 3 times today, but 1 second half touchdown, 3 losses. Don't look at my offense and its problems. Look over there, guys. Look over there. It's the committee. It's Ward Manuel. It's look at the SMU game. Look at how bad they played. Look over there. Don't look at me. Look over there. I think it's clear that that's some of the motivation here. But yeah, a disappointing season being 10-3 shows that the program has elevated itself. With basketball, like football, there are certain games you need to show out. When you don't, people remember those later in the year, like the Kentucky loss. It makes earning reps much harder. Yeah, and I think part of it too, some people won't like this, but I do think that some of the reaction from the casual Ole Miss basketball fan as a result of Mississippi State beating Memphis badly in that building a week ago. I think that also contributed to some of the, wait, what the hell, this team sucks kind of reaction, which I don't think is particularly fair. Mississippi State's a good basketball team. They're very good. And they caught Memphis on a bad day themselves. But it's a missed opportunity for them to get people to buy in quickly. But it should be a great crowd on Saturday with Georgia at home, and there's another opportunity to get people to really buy in. It's a very important game for Ole Miss in their path to make the NCAA tournament. I know there's 18 of them, but the first one is a very important one. The line has ballooned to -17. Yeah. Everyone, no matter who it is, likes winning more than losing, and even those who claim they, quote, don't care want to win the game when it gets here, no doubt. The Georgia game was more than just a loss for Georgia. It proved Kiffin can win big games. Already knew that he could win games he's supposed to, and he usually does, just not this year. Yeah, that was um yeah, this season was interesting because the taking care of business part has kind of been what he's done in his 4 years going into this one. And this year is quite the opposite. They beat soundly the two best teams they played. Soundly. Just couldn't take care of the ones that they were better than. It was ugly after that Texas Bowl in 2022, wasn't it? Yes, it was very ugly, but a lot of money was raised on the back of Auburn. So at least they had that, right? A lot of money was raised and a lot of things happened in those 2 weeks or so. But yeah, that was hideous. And quite frankly, forgive my language, everybody. If you got kids in the car, earmuffs. Kiffin coached that Texas Bowl, earmuffs, inappropriate language, like an asshole. That he coached that game like he could not have possibly cared less. It was an embarrassment. Every fan that went to that game should have gotten a refund for their trip. I mean, that was awful. That was an embarrassment, and that does not need to happen again. It just doesn't need to happen again. Brent Venables has a real mess on his hands. No kidding. Probably not going to last much longer. They looked awful. Yes, they did. Defensively, they've been great. They were great this season on that side of the ball. But yeah, he's on the hottest seat in the SEC entering 2025, isn't he? Meanwhile, Florida fans are elated getting an 8th win with the bowl, winning 4 in a row to end the season. Yes, and I mean, think back to August, right? If I'd have told you that Florida was going 7-5 with a bowl win, you would have said, "Damn, that's a really good coaching job from Napier, all things considered." Got a two-parter for you on the Pop-Tart Bowl. The first is on the spectacle the bowl's created for itself, and then Cam Ward's halftime opt-out. Kudos to Pop-Tarts, and I saw a screenshot of their marketing director getting sent around. That woman is a genius. She is an absolute genius. The marketing around that game has been exceptional. They're Pop-Tarts. That's what they are. They're an overly loaded down with sugar breakfast food for kids and then sometimes me. Because, I have a box of Pop-Tarts up in the pantry right now. They're supposed to be for him, and I ate some this morning. So, it happens. But, I mean, it's making it they've leaned into what they are, and it's been a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun yesterday. I had to watch it through an app, though, because we had tornado coverage on ABC, but it was a lot of fun, and kudos to Pop-Tarts for embracing it, and the players in the broadcast also embracing it. I think Cam Ward's halftime opt-out is a joke, and I know that media in particular are pushing the idea that these bowl games don't matter, and it just doesn't matter that he quit at halftime on his team, or the spin that, well, they planned for him to quit at halftime the entire time. And I know that the NFL, it's not going to affect his draft status, really. Although I have spoken with somebody that has been a scout that says bowl opt-outs, some teams don't care. Some of them do put that as a black mark on your resume. But what I hate that we have done, and by we I mean us as a society, as sports fans, the people that work in media, allowing a situation in which a football player chases an individual accolade and abandons his team in a 3-point game and is willing to stand on the sidelines and watch his team lose that game when you as a competitor should have wanted nothing more than to be on the field to do that with them. That's why we have chosen to not only completely downplay games as if they are meaningless. That's what they say, meaningless bowl games. These games mean nothing. It's the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Who cares? Well, then why did the team play at all? Why did they practice? Why did they game plan? Why did any of his teammates line up and beat their head against another guy for 4 quarters when it didn't matter? What is the point of even playing the game at all? Why do we even do that? If you're going to be out, then be out. Go prepare for the NFL. If you feel like you need to protect yourself, if even though Miami paid you handsomely to play quarterback for Miami, if that is something that you don't need anymore and you want to prepare for the draft, then go. Just go. Opt-outs are widely accepted now. People accept them. I understand them. I don't quote unquote like them, but at least I get it. Or playing the game completely. But to half-ass it, to take your risks to achieve an individual accomplishment, and then to leave your team in a 3-point game and to stand on the sidelines while they lose, I think that's a joke. And that's not something that we should encourage. We shouldn't talk about how okay this is. We shouldn't defend it. Miami's coaches, the staff there, the people involved, should be embarrassed for allowing that to happen. Whoever gave Cam Ward advice to do that, I think should be embarrassed. You're either all in or you're all out. But in football, in sports, as a competitor, you cannot just dip your toes into a game with your team and not think that there's going to be some controversy around it. That doesn't mean he's a bad guy. I think, frankly, he got some bad advice or something. But for us to suggest that it's good. Not only is it okay, but it's good for you, a member of a team, the most important member of the team. It is good to chase an individual accolade. And once you achieve the individual, you bail to protect yourself. It's garbage. It's garbage. I don't care that it's the Pop-Tart Bowl. That doesn't matter to me. Did Shedeur Sanders? He played behind an awful offensive line. Yet again, he got hit and hit and hit, and his team was getting blown out, and it wasn't close. And you had people encouraging him to do the same. People in sports media, Shedeur, Deion should pull Shedeur. They need to protect him. No, Shedeur played 4 quarters of that football game. He took hits, and his team was losing badly. I gained so much respect for Shedeur Sanders yesterday. And it's so funny that happened right after what Cam Ward did. Shedeur Sanders could have very easily opted out at halftime, and he would have gotten the same treatment from sports media people. Oh, it's fine. I get it. He was getting hurt. No, that kid toughed it out for 4 quarters. And so if you're looking at 2 quarterbacks who frankly, I think Shedeur is a better quarterback than Cam Ward, but some people don't. Regardless, you're comparing these 2 guys now. If you're an NFL team, and apparently this doesn't happen, I don't buy it, but if you're an NFL team and you have Shedeur and you have Cam Ward, if I'm a coach, if I'm coaching these teams, which, by the way, do you see how often NFL teams fail at evaluating and drafting quarterbacks? How many NFL teams have great quarterback play right now? Not many. Maybe there's a reason, like this idea that NFL teams, well, they're not going to drop Cam Ward at all. Maybe that's why they're picking so high in the draft, because they're losers. They're losing. They get it wrong. If I had a choice between Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, I'm picking Shedeur every time now. Every time now. I know he's been a little controversial and he's a little showy and flashy, but that dude took a beating in a meaningless bowl game last night. He took a beating and he kept playing and he kept playing and he kept playing. And a guy that's willing to do that will play for my team anytime. A guy that's going to quit at halftime. I don't care if they planned it or not. A guy that's going to quit at halftime and watch his team lose when his backup quarterback was awful and was not prepared at all to play in that game. To start a game And to quit it, to watch your team lose, that's not my guy. I don't want that guy on my team. And I loved how we got a back-to-back view of the two of them. We got to see Cam quit, and we got to see Shador play 4 quarters and get hit and get hit a lot. And he toughed it out, and he played until the end. That guy can play for my team. The quitter, I'm good. I will find another quarterback that won't do that to his team. I don't care if it's a meaningless bowl game. If you suit up and you play, you freaking play. And if you quit at halftime, that's fine. That's loser behavior. What Shador did, I know they lost the game. That's not loser behavior, though. That not at all. He would be ahead of Ward because of that decision for me, since they're comparable quarterbacks with ability. How ironic was it for Musa Cisse to have a career day against his former team? Yeah, I had a buddy text me and say Cisse's improved so much. That's an indictment on Beard. And I thought, I don't know if he's really improved much. I think it's more about Ole Miss's lack of size that made him look better than he actually is. He's still very much him, but maybe I'm looking at that wrong. How can Ward ever call himself a competitor again? I would have questions about that. Another question on this one. On Colorado looked completely outmatched yesterday, but what do you think Deion's future is there? Got a bad feeling about that. I kind of do too. I mean, he had a high level quarterback and the best player in the game. And I mean, they ended up being good down the stretch. I think that, frankly, he needs to start building a program in a more traditional way. The fact that he has been allocated private jet usage to go recruit, and not only does he refuse, that like there's an arrogance about why he doesn't go recruit high school players. That, I mean, that will only backfire. That will only backfire. I think basketball needs to go 2-0 at home versus Georgia and LSU. Yeah, you got to protect your home floor against teams that you are comparable to or better than, for sure. The league's already hard enough. You can't be dropping games to teams like that. What are my thoughts on the state staff additions on the offensive line? Coach from Colorado seems like a good poll. I'm concerned about that, but I'm not smart enough to know if Colorado struggles up front were because of personnel or because of coaching. Colorado was really bad on the offensive line this year. Really bad. Could it be because he just simply didn't have the players to work with? Totally possible. But how did we fare with the Storms last night? We did okay. It got pretty nasty for a little while, but certainly not. I mean, there was one really small town that got hit, and it's always that way, isn't it? That's the saddest part. Is, small town folks just, good old people, and they're the ones that get, the tornado treatment. But we did okay. Did a lot of yard work today, picking up limbs and whatnot. But favorite Pop-Tart flavor? S'mores. That's the best one. Ward on the sideline looked so bad on TV, then he faked warming up when they went down by 1 at the end. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Them cutting to him as Iowa State's bad quarterback, it has no chance whatsoever to take them down the field to win the game. Yeah, just an awful look. Iowa State couldn't even touch them in the first half, and then look at how awesome it was for Iowa State when they won. I was rooting for them. Miami doesn't seem like they have a great culture with Cristobal. Yeah, fighting on the sidelines as well. And then, by the way, don't tell the players that these bowl games are meaningless. Look at how they react to them. How about them Doors? Oh, man. What a great coaching job from Clark Lee, and Diego Pavia coming back is great. Great for college football. It's great. Saw Ole Miss fans talking about Tunsil sitting out the second half of the Sugar Bowl. Guys, it was, what was it, 34-6? Little bit different than a 3-point game if you're the quarterback. Yeah. Little bit different. This upcoming quarterback class, draft class is terrible. I mean, it's Shador and Cam Ward, and then who? I mean, there's some rumors about Quinn Ewers not going into the draft, but hitting the portal instead. I don't know. Ole Miss is trash, you say. Well, thank you for the views anyway. Funny thing about Ward breaking the record is Gabriel's probably going to break it himself. That would be very fitting. Kind of hoping LSU loses to Baylor just to see the reaction to Brian Kelly. Exactly. What do you think LSU fans are going to say about Brian Kelly if he loses in this game? It's a meaningless bowl game, but it's not meaningless because it's a game your teams play. Once it happens, meaning is assigned to it. Best Pop-Tart is cherry and brown sugar, cinnamon frosting. Get out of here. Hunter the State fan says, I know Chris Beard is the answer here, but what has Ole Miss done the last several years to be ranked ahead of State in basketball? And State has been to 2 straight NCAA tournaments. Well, I mean, I guess it's not about last year or the year before. It's about what are they right now. I mean, until Saturday, State had a worse loss. But Butler's, it's not going to hurt them or anything. But I mean, I think that's probably what it is. I mean, Ole Miss had a win over Louisville on the road. They beat BYU in a neutral site. They, had a tip in at the buzzer to lose to Purdue at a neutral site. That's probably why. But the only thing that matters is net. Polls, just could not be any less relevant than they are in basketball. They just simply don't matter. All you have to worry about and look at is the net. Nothing else matters. Shout out to Army and Navy getting bowl wins. Great seasons for each. Incredible, man. I said this on Twitter. I don't care how many opt-outs Oklahoma had. The fact that a bunch of Naval Academy students who, yes, are good football players. They play football for Navy, but there's no NIL money. They're not highly recruited. They're preparing for other things at school, and they're playing football like they fit football in. And they go out and they beat a program like Oklahoma is incredible. I love watching Army and Navy and Air Force have success. The ECU fight was entertaining, and they start the season against each other next year. Rumor is Ewers has close to a $5 million offer from, I believe, Notre Dame. He's not worth. Goodness gracious. I know that revenue sharing's here, and so the money's increased, but there's all this talk. I guess it didn't happen, but about Nico hitting the portal and getting millions. It's like, how do you watch him play and think that you should spend your money on that? It's crazy. Titans will take Ewers or, quite frankly, anyone. They stink. No, I'm sorry to say that, but gosh. What has Cam Ward done that Dart hasn't in a harder conference? Jackson Dart would light up this version of the ACC as well. Pro Football Focus and everything, but Colorado had by far a better offensive line than State, and it was his first year. And first year as an offensive line coach, and Lebby wanted to hire him as an analyst last year. Yeah, I don't know the nuances of Colorado's offensive line issues. It very well could have been personnel. It certainly could have. The initial offensive line coach hire was fascinating because in 2023, Arkansas they were really poor up front, one of the worst in football. And hiring that guy to be your offensive line coach wasn't talked about enough or at least there weren't enough red flags raised as to why Arkansas is not good at the thing that you're asking him to be good at Mississippi State for. I never thought that was going to work out. But anyway, Service Academy players deal with way more than players at other schools for sure. Yeah, it's not even close. It's not even close, man. Their schedules are unbelievable. Remember when an SEC team wins a bowl, it didn't matter, but when they lose, the conference sucks. Well, The ACC is the biggest loser, and frankly, the ACC's bowl performances, I mean, seriously, could be a driving force behind removing automatic bids completely, because this proposal that they've been talking about going to 14 and going 4 for the Big 10, 4 for the SEC, 2 for the ACC, 2 for the Big 12. Why would you do that now? The ACC doesn't, I mean, would not have deserved to this year. They got to, because, which, by the way, remember a week ago when the discourse and the conversation was centered around SMU took care of business and Alabama and Ole Miss and South Carolina didn't? Yeah, remember that when people were completely when people got so emotional about Kirk Herbstreit saying that number of wins shouldn't matter, it's quality of win. Remember that? And people took him out of context and spun it and made him look like this big evil whatever. No, he was spot on. The ACC had the worst record against the other power conferences this season. They were 9-17 against the other power conferences. The ACC in the regular season, the games that quote unquote matter. That was it, right? And now they're 1-9 in bowl games, and both of their playoff teams lost. Kirk Herbstreit was this big evil guy for suggesting that maybe SMU's 11 wins is not impressive, and it's not even as impressive as Ole Miss and South Carolina's 9 wins. But no, he's crazy for thinking that. Look at it now. He was spot on. He was absolutely spot on. People don't want to accept that reality, but they nailed it. The SEC this year had the best record, the only winning record against the other power conferences. But they only got one more bid than the ACC if you don't count Notre Dame, which that's like a half, because they do have kind of an ACC schedule because of their deal. But Kirk was spot on, and everybody fighting mad about what he had to say when he nailed it. SMU's 11 wins, now that we've seen it both in regular season and in postseason, were not as impressive as Alabama, Ole Miss, or South Carolina's 9. Simply was not. They did not belong in the playoff. They should not have gotten there. The ACC should not have gotten 2 bids. Hell, they probably shouldn't have gotten 1. And when people say, don't talk about hypotheticals, don't talk about what happens on the field, I am. What happened on the field told you that they didn't deserve it, and yet they got it anyway. Yeah. Only win was Syracuse over Washington State, missing 30 players. No kidding. Yeah. That's I feel so bad for Washington State fans and Oregon State fans. I feel so bad for those people. Going to be funny when Alabama and Ole Miss end up in the final AP top 12. No kidding. I mean, SMU should free fall. They had no business on the field with Penn State. None. They couldn't match up athletically. No business. None. But apparently Tennessee's performance against possibly the best roster in the sport negates everything you know about the ACC, and they're deserving of multiple bids. Whatever. And it negates it all, apparently. It negates the other conference's record against Power 4 teams. It negates years of sample size. It negates everything else. Tennessee's bad day negated everything. And yeah, you're right. Tennessee is probably the SEC's 5th best team. Ask a Service Academy lineman about their weight standard waiver and how long they have to lose lineman weight so they're within the standards. Those guys are incredible. They really are. Tennessee was always fraudulent. Yeah, they ran into two things happened. They had a schedule that could not exploit some of their weaknesses in the way Ohio State could, and other teams in the SEC that they did not play could have. And then just ran into a freaking buzzsaw on the road, man. Nico's especially, you say Tennessee's fraudulent. That they are at the moment, because I know he's a freshman. I understand that. But by your 13th game, you haven't gotten any better at all. There's a problem. So anyway, I got to run, guys. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. Little ranting tonight. Why not? It's what we're supposed to do, right? We'll be back on Tuesday. So I don't know if there's going to be some portal movement or not. I know it's like the dead period, but guys can still commit, I suppose. Ooh, should live on Tuesday, New Year's Eve. No, no, we're not going live on New Year's Eve. None of you will be here. None of you. I'll record something for Tuesday. How's that sound? I'll record something for Tuesday, and then we'll be live after the game on Thursday. So I'll see y'all then. Thank you so much for tuning in, and talk to you recorded on Tuesday and then live after the game. Right, the game's on Thursday. I've said Thursday 100 times tonight. Yes, the game's on Thursday. We'll be live after that. You say I'd be here. I'm lame. I'm lame too. I don't have any plans. I'm just, you know, trying to be smart with my time. But anyway, y'all be good. I'll see you Tuesday.